This is Lauren.
This is Trey.
And this
is the Partnership Podcast.
Hello, my baby. We are back.
Part 3. I think we're just going to talk about this movie from now on.
Welcome back to part 3. If you're just joining us, because I never know one of these is going to get more hits than another one. Trey and I recently watched the new film, The Invite, and it had so many themes that we couldn't wait to discuss. We've already done part 1 and part 2. Complete spoiler alert. Do not watch/listen to these podcasts unless you have seen the film, or unless you never desired to see the film, or maybe you're one of those people who loves to watch the spoilers and then go see a film. We are completely dissecting this film because we loved it so much. Highly recommend going and listening to parts 1 and 2. But I'm sure that each of these conversations could stand on their own. I am a certified holistic sexuality educator and an embodied intimacy and relationship coach. And these are all of my favorite topics. The incredible Esther Perel was the consultant on this film, and her work has tremendously, tremendously impacted me and our relationship in more ways than one. I originally read Mating in Captivity. I don't know if you even know this. When I was separated from my first husband. And when I was on that cruise, do you remember stories that I've told you about that cruise?
Yeah.
So we were separated. We had already planned a cruise with another family and our kid that we have together. And we went on this cruise and we shared a bedroom together, even though we'd already been separated for 5 months at this point. It was horrifying, it just was horrifying, period. I also was halfway through Mating in Captivity. And I remember saying to him, I would love for you to read this book. This is allowing me to understand so much. I had never, ever read any text like this before. He never read the book, ever, and complete end of the story. He is now happily living his best gay life, and I am so happy for him, and we should not have been together. But she was the first person who really exposed me to this idea of who we are inside of romantic relationships has so much to do with everything that's come before us. And so much of what we think we are supposed to do inside of relationships is from structures and made up places. So it's just, I have loved this human since 2018 is when that was.
That was all great. Back to the movie.
Back to the movie. Here we are.
I'm hearing you talk, but all I'm doing is looking. I'm just seeing Edward Norton's face. Okay, at the very end, after the failed sexual encounter, Penélope Cruz says to them, this isn't loving. This relationship is over. And then Rogen and Wilde repeat, this is done, this is over. And when is it more loving to separate in relationship than to try to work it out or find a you? And as a professional, have you ever identified this with your clients? And if so, what's the first step?
Such a beautiful question. Yes, I have identified this with several clients, and we have taken the careful and loving steps to consciously uncouple their relationship. I love the work of Catherine Woodard Thomas in her incredible book, Conscious Uncoupling, which was made really popular by Gwyneth Paltrow several years ago. It's beautiful and trauma-informed and incredibly loving. But I loved your question, which was, how have I identified it and what's been the first step? Bell Hooks says often that what we call love is actually abuse. And what we call love is not loving. And that's what Penelope is getting to. There were times where I think she was truly referencing Bell Hooks, an incredible Black feminist philosopher. So much of the ways in which we relate inside of long-term monogamous partnerships replicate our families of origin. And so many of us had families in which we were not very nice to each other. I was literally working with a young adult client with us about this morning. She's 22. And we were looking at the ways in which her family relates to her and the ways in which that type of speech has been normalized. The type of cutting in, the type of tearing down, the type of disrespect. When Penelope says that to Wilde's character and to Rogen's character, they have just, the entire film, they are mean to each other. And so I first always, with clients of mine, when they're sitting before me and I am seeing just mean-spiritedness, we first go towards that with curiosity and compassion, because most often it's a safety-seeking behavior. And so before I would ever mention consciously uncoupling, instead, I would seek to track the overwhelming sensation that was coming up in their body and what it was being triggered by. So most often when we are mean, we are doing that to self-protect. We are doing that to get away from another because we feel that in some way we are being threatened. The connection that we are experiencing is being threatened, or we ourselves feel threatened. And so we are reacting. And at some point, usually when we were little, that kept us safe, right? We slammed a door in our mom's face when she was yelling at us, or our dad physically harmed us and we would run, or we would punch back, or we would yell, or we would give the silent treatment. In some way, we were seeking revenge, which was the only thing we had to do as little people. And so it is very common that we perpetuate those learned patterns of behavior inside of our long-term partnerships. So before I would ever suggest uncoupling, I would, if I was sitting with someone, seek to repattern first, seek to get curious about those overwhelming sensations, equip my clients with tools to self-soothe, to calm, and then to be able to approach their relationship through different relational choices. Then, when I see a lack of interest in or a lack of ability to, that is coming from unresolved traumatic experiences, that person perhaps might not be at a level of development where they're able to attune to those, or perhaps there are some other really huge life stressors that are actually more threatening than the relationship, such as housing, a job, like food on your table. Sometimes there are truly bigger things. Like, listen, I'm a proponent of relationships, and I understand that we live in a world in which we need food on the table. We live in a world in which housing is scarce at times. So there are important reasons. So if there's a lack of willingness or a lack of an ability to, and I am seeing an individual or both individuals harmed inside of the perpetuation of this relationship, and we are calling it love, to stay inside of a relational container that is causing harm, fuck that. That is not good for anyone. Penelope Cruz's character says it, and I say it to my clients all the time. If there are children involved, it's even worse. Because we are every child's first sex educator. We are every child's first relational educator. And when they are seeing parents who treat each other like that, you better believe they go out and seek out partnerships that look just like that, because it's familiar. And we've called it love.
Okay, lack of willingness.
Lack of willingness.
Rogen's character has that in spades. A willingness to, I don't know, be vulnerable, a willingness to even kind of hold space for someone. So lack of willingness reminds me directly of Seth Rogen's character, and he's not dealing with a housing issue. He's not dealing with a job issue. Well, his issues are that he secretly hates both of them, or maybe not so secretly. He hates that he lives in this gorgeous, I don't know, mid-century, this beautiful apartment that was given to him by his parents, and he hates that he's in like a low-tier school teaching kids the oboe, and they don't give a fuck. He hates that his band broke up. He won't let anybody play the music that he was once proud of, to the point where he'll go over and physically like take the record off of the player. So a Rogen archetype, a man that shows up, that seemingly all he does is deflect. Professionally, what do you do with that?
I absolutely, if they were seeing me, right, as their educator and coach, and that was the couple who was presenting to me. See, here's where
What if they see you as an obligation? Like, this is something I have to do because my wife is making me. Two huge words, have to, making.
I would talk about self-definition of self-worth, which is exactly what Penelope does. She says, would you fuck yourself? Because
all I do is fuck myself. That's all I do. That's all I've done for the last year.
oh my God. Yeah. Then I would ask why both of them are staying and why their assessments of themselves are so low to say that this is what they think they deserve.
The kids. We're staying for the kids. She's 12. She'll be out of the house in 6 years.
I would say, what part of you believes that this is all you deserve?
Huh.
I would say life is short. Sex is good. Bodies are good. Pleasure is good. Continuing to harm one another, continuing to believe that this is all you're deserving of, will continue to lead down the same exact path.
Path of what?
Of unhappiness, of discontentment, of pain, of suffering. And I understand that it is simpler to stay with what is familiar, that feels safe. And I get it. To want is the most vulnerable action on earth. To believe that we are deserving of pleasure as our birthright. To believe that joy and ease are right there on the other side. To continue to point the finger at the other as the bad person, and to continue to believe that we are a victim instead of looking at what we can change, can be more comfortable at times. And yet, I would call out the harm, and I would look at both of them in the eyes, and I would say that at this point, this is codependency, and at this point, you are both enabling one another to continue harming, not just yourself, but your child. The World Health Organization says that sexual health is fundamental to the well-being of individuals, families, and communities. Why? Because when individuals are making informed decisions about themselves and their own sexual bodies and their own relationships, we see it contribute to the well-being of their partners, and we see it contribute to the well-being of their families and then their communities. And when they are stunted and when information is willfully withheld from them on how to flourish sexually and relationally, we see them shrivel up and die. We see people harm people. I do not think that we all need to be having group sex parties all day, every day. That's not what I'm talking about. But if we're not having sex inside of a relationship structure that is meant to fulfill our sexual needs, wants, and desires, well, then we get to get curious about it. And if we're not willing to be curious about it, then what's the actual point? Because what it is showcasing and what is emulating to everyone around you is that that's all you think you deserve. And so what do we do when we feel we're being taken from? We start taking from other people. We start perpetuating harm. Because as human beings, we will have our needs met. We will. And the wheel of consent is super cool for this. Because when we acknowledge that in all times in life, somebody's giving a gift or receiving a gift, then a lot of us are being forced, we believe, to give gifts that we don't want to give. So what do? We stay on the outside of consent. We slide into entitlement. We slide into privilege. We slide into taking advantage of. And it's childish, and I know why it is childish, because many of us learned that patterning in childhood. But it's time to grow up. It's time to, especially because the type of growing up that I'm suggesting and Penelope Cruz is suggesting is the growing up that is full of play and fun and joy and great sex and orgasms and freedom. But it takes vulnerability. To believe that that's what we're deserving of takes insane vulnerability.
Seth Rogen and Olivia Wilde show up as their characters to your office, and they say, we haven't had sex in over a year. We're both still sexual beings. We both still want to have sex. What do we do?
Such a good question. What is sex?
Penis and vagina and maybe a little mouth play and some fingers in some bits.
when you are wanting sex? What do you want, Seth?
To feel relief.
Relief from what?
I don't know. Like, it's very relaxing, kind of the everyday bullshit of life. It's very pleasurable.
And why do you want it with her?
I guess because I'm married and that's what I can get.
That's interesting. So it's not necessarily her that you're wanting, but it's because it's what you can get?
Both.
Okay. Both. So you do want her. Why do you want her?
Well, I mean, we've been doing this for, I don't know, a dozen years now. So, yeah. Yeah, so you going to help or not?
I just like to get curious because, Seth, a lot of people pursue sex for different reasons. And your reasons are great. For the relief, that's a really good reason. For me, I call that this momentary escape. And it's one of the greatest reasons I seek sex too. Because for me, sex feels like this little adventure I get to go on separate from my everyday life. And it feels like the coolest thing on earth that I get to do this with the person I've chosen to be in long-term partnership with. For me, it's like inviting my partner to go play on the playground. And for me, I'm like, why not do that? That's an amazing thing to get to do. That's my reason. Everybody's got a reason, though. And so if we want to be wanted, which I'm thinking that maybe you want as well, that experience of being desired.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we also get to get curious about what the other person wants when they want sex. And so often in long-term partnership, we just assume that what we want in sex is exactly what our partner wants in sex. And it's most often not. Because we're different human beings with different builds and different life stories. And there's nothing at all wrong with that. For instance, let me ask my partner, Trey, when you want sex in this season of life, because I'm sure it's changed, when you want sex now, what are you wanting?
Connection.
Oh.
Or like a fantasy, relief, relaxation. Yeah, like I want to feel desired and I want to desire you. I think it's mostly connection. It's one of the ways that we connect.
Yeah.
What do you want when you want sex?
An escape, an adventure. Connection too. And I will say that I get a lot of connection in my everyday.
Can you define escape in sex? Because some people may take that
I remember the first time I told you were
a different
like,
way. Yeah,
you're like, who wants that? This is Nagoski.
Oh, you told me that with violating prohibitions. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. And then you listed 4 things that I really like. And it's like, oh, I want that a lot.
Which I think is so fun about sex. It's so fun. I think when we can embrace the fact that the differentiation between fantasy and reality, anything's on the table. Nagoski really notated in her second book, Come Together, that there are 4 different reasons, primary reasons that people want sex: connection, pleasure, feeling wanted and desired, and break from everyday reality, this kind of adventure, and to go on a journey together. In the film, Penelope Cruz's character says, sex is not something we do, sex is someplace we go, which is an Esther Perel direct quote. That's what Nagoski was notating here, and it's what I seek sex for. Sex gives me this I've always been a dreamer and an imaginary kid, and I grew up in the theater, and I grew up pretending wild adventures, and I could cry. That's what sex lets me still do, even if it's a quickie or if it's this long experience with you. I get to be with you. We have this undercurrent of connection, and then I get to explore the unknown with you. So when we study female eroticism, we find that when women have been given a secure foundation, they have safety and security, that is when their erotic imaginations come online and they desire the risk, the forbidden, the unknown. And when we can differentiate between fantasy and reality, and when you and I can incorporate imagination inside of a sexual encounter that's just happening in our bedroom, I get to taste that. I get to feel wild and unbridled and ravenous and unkempt and everything the world has told me that I cannot be.
Does Olivia Wilde have safety and security within her relationship? Because I feel like you can make an overwhelming argument of yes. Mm-hmm. What would you say?
And I'd also say yes. I'd say there's a lot of certainty. Now.
Too much?
Yeah. Which is why I think she starts walking by the window naked and enjoying that thrill. Truly. I think that some of the certainty is boring her out of her mind, like the certainty that her husband's going to come in the door and fall on the floor because his back hurts, the certainty that she's going to recommend he go to a chiropractor and he's not going to take her up on it.
The certainty that he's going to come home and just start complaining immediately, or like, please don't touch the cheese. He's going to touch the cheese.
Right. Ugh. Right? I'm not saying any of this certainty is good, but I'm saying there's a lot of certainty.
One of Rogen's big complaints was like, you try to control everything. You try to control me. You try to control us. You do all this shit to the house. What do you do all day? You don't work. So you're always like trying to busybody. Was that accurate? Or let's just say it is. Where does that come from? And then I would love to share when I feel like over controlling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think all human beings do it. And Danae Logan talks about this in Sovereign Love, that when either party in a dual, like a two-person relationship dynamic, when either party starts to go into type of that like childish space, the other partner usually steps in the role of caregiver. And that usually feels like control and dominance. So usually the other partner will then push back with dominance, which then usually leads the other partner to feel anxious in the relationship, and just round and round we go. So yeah, what I think is leading to the controlling behaviors is the fact that her husband comes home and lays on the ground like a child, and then does things like touches the cheese. Now, I know why he's doing that, because he feels controlled, so he's pushing back on dominance. But I just, I know the audience gets mad at me when I talk about how we need more people in our lives. But I'm like, we need more people in our lives. We need to be asserting our agency and our autonomy in other ways. We need to be standing on our own center of gravity. It's really critical that we look at our partners with admiration and appreciation. In that same book, Come Together, that Nagoski did on the success of long-term couples who are sexually satisfied, what they found resoundingly was not that the couples that would call themselves sexually satisfied, not that they had sex 3 times a week, which is the thing that everybody thinks you need to do, not that they were having these wonderful sexual escapes and excursions. No, it was that they appreciated one another and they admired one another. Mm. They were like, sometimes we have lots of sex, and we do. We go on sexy adventures, and we do great things. Sometimes we're both building a business, or one of us just had a baby. It doesn't matter. They are the coolest thing on earth. I admire them so much, and I appreciate them so much.
When I feel like I'm over-controlling things that are well outside my domain, or I'm nitpicking, or I'm getting on the baby about, cleaning up after herself, there's something that I don't feel like I'm probably taking care of would be the best thing. Not controlling myself, but there's something there's things in my life that I either feel like I'm neglecting or not taking care of. So it's when I get that way, when I get a little nitpicky, or when I start tallying, it's a really good opportunity to kind of do a little self-assessment of what are you missing right now? Or it's like, hey, are you waking up and going straight to your phone? Are you drinking too much? Are you hitting the pen a little too much? So,
And
you know.
gentle audience, what Trey just said leads to admiration and appreciation.
What do you mean?
When you have these moments of self-reflection, especially when you do, express something critical of me, and then you follow back up and you're like, hey, babe, sorry about that. That wasn't necessary.
And specifically things that are not warranted.
Yeah.
Because there's a ton of stuff that there's just lists.
Trey is a human design projector, and he can also often perceive things that I could be doing better. Yes, when you have been critical in an unwarranted way, or in a way that just you didn't need to be. You often have beliefs about things that I could be doing differently that I haven't invited you into, and I haven't asked for your feedback or your suggestions. And when you circle back and you, with self-awareness, say something like just this, right? I found it, and really I was aggravated that I hadn't gotten up as early as you, and I have been trying to do my meditation practice. It was the first day that I skipped it, something like that. It immediately makes me go, because there's no need to get defensive. There's no need to kind of like assert my own dominance, take power over another. There's no need to start over-functioning, which is a place I go to when you are critical of me, because my own wounds, and hi, welcome to partnership, we're often just triggering each other's wounds. And then that work that is yours to do. So on this podcast, Trey and I say this phrase ad nauseum, which is there's his work, there's my work, there's our together work. That work of self-awareness, that work of tracking our own patterns, that is ours and ours alone to do. Now, we can bring in a helper like me. We can bring in a helper like our Dr. Jolie Hamilton or my Robin Dalzen, and we can get helpers along that who can help us see. They can kind of hold up a magnifying glass to the patterns that we take and the shadow characters that we bring to the table. Immensely helpful. But the true repatterning is ours to do. I have an incredible client, shout out, in the Midwest, and he has, gonna weep again, done phenomenal work repatterning himself. So much so that it is being noticed and things are changing in their partnership. And their wife has never done a single session with us. And he has done tremendous self-work.
And he's getting good feedback from his partner.
It's phenomenal.
Okay, Rogen's character, when his back is hurt after a failed sexual attempt with Penelope Cruz.
Can you imagine, first of all, you had an opportunity
to have sex with Penelope Cruz and I hurt my back?
To have a sexual encounter with Penelope Cruz?
It's on me.
Yeah.
It's on me if my back gets thrown out. Like
legitimately,
he tripped over something in his own office.
Exercising. We could have sex with
Penelope Cruz.
Go get on your exercise bike now.
Go do your stretches, Trey.
You need to be ready.
Penelope Cruz waits.
Side note, that kiss that she shares with Olivia Wilde at one point,
yeah.
that was ad-lib. That was like completely...
No shit.
Yeah. Improvisation.
And also, like, probably should ask for consent first.
I hope they've...
No STD test or talk.
I have been listening to so many podcasts on this that I think they had established that type of a container going into that there was freedom to play. I'm hoping that they discuss yes, no's, maybes, all this type of stuff. But apparently Penelope did it, and it took Olivia so by surprise that she just looked right into the camera and broke the moment. They were all like,
oh, that's funny. They must have had to do it again then.
Yeah, what are you
doing? They cut. Okay, question.
Okay,
so
Seth
Rogen's on his back. Captain Hawk tells the story of how he got his hawk name. And speaking of patterning, Rogen basically says something like, oh, you like pegging. Is that what he knows?
Yeah.
Because the opposite would be to hear him?
Sit with it?
And is that difficult for a lot of... Yeah, that's difficult for a lot of people. I'm still learning how to do it. So yeah, it's difficult. Versus going to a joke or going to Yeah, some type of wild deflection.
Again, the first thing I'm always going to go to is compassion, because our culture has given hardly any examples to young men of what shared vulnerability looks like. I don't know where Seth Rogen's character would have learned how to sit with that level of vulnerability. You and I even say all the time that where are the spaces that are not like Burning Man, right? For men to go to. You and I are like, there's like kind of two extremes. There's manosphere, unhealth, but it is men sharing this world is hard, right? It gives that brotherhood. It gives that belonging. And then
there's like Austin, Texas.
We love you if you're watching from Austin, Texas.
They all got like V-necks on and jewelry with the hats. They all have the like a scarecrow hat on,
which is so akin to some of the spiritual Christian spaces. I'm putting this in big quotation marks if you're not watching, because the American evangelicalism that I was raised in, I don't think even closely reflects the Jesus of the Christian scriptures. But that can also, right, you call it accountability partners there. You do in those spaces share vulnerably. But for the male clients that I have, we will talk about this often. Where are the safe spaces for you to be sharing emotional, vulnerable shit?
Gay men.
And it's why I would say some of your closest friendships are with gay men.
Or if I need to like go actually get relational advice that's not from a woman.
Yeah.
Gay men.
Gay men. Who have had to deal with more shit in their lives in order to come out. They have had to face adversity. They have gotten vulnerable. Go ahead.
Then our boys a lot of them were struggling with their own sexuality for such a long time because of their religious upbringing.
So they
thought there was something wrong with the ways that they thought.
Yeah. So I will turn towards Seth Rogen's character with curiosity and compassion, perhaps once. And I will turn towards that with curiosity and compassion. I will offer it. I will also name it if they were sitting in a session with me, okay, as the form of deflection that it was. And I will ask what type of overwhelming sensation was coming up in him that led him to make a joke after someone shared so beautifully and honestly. If he could do that, and some people can when they are not met with more anger for their humor, right? Because sometimes it diffuses it like nobody's business. It's like pouring water on like a firework or something, right? Somebody's lit it and it's about to go explode and you're just like, pfft, and they just look at you. When instead of being met with more aggression and hostility, I meet a client with, wow, right? Like it seemed like that moment of vulnerability caused some feelings inside of you.
And it was so interesting where Edward Norton, another man, didn't meet him with aggression and hostility. He met him with the C word, curiosity.
Yeah.
And then he was actually met with aggression from Cruz.
Yes.
Saying like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What's your fucking problem? Or like, why don't you shut the fuck up? Something like that. And then it was so interesting where Norton corrected her English, and she was done with him too. And then she went into like, I didn't want this. You're the one. You keep pushing.
This is one of my favorite moments in the whole film.
And then Norton's like, hey, that was terrible timing. I'm so sorry. Like, I apologize. It was interesting where it looked like Norton goes to fusion because he kept breaking the fight or fuck zone and getting closer and closer, where Cruz was like, fuck off. It's actually very interesting where Norton's character in conflict will go to fusion. Fusion is like connection, like getting close and close physically or whatever, energy, good energy. And what's the opposite? Isolation. Where you and I in conflict will go to isolation, where it's like, get the fuck away from me.
It's wild.
So it's really interesting where people would have to tell him literally to get away. Olivia Wilde said when he tried to drop tea, fuck off. Rogen's like, get off.
Right. You brought them tea at one time.
Rogen's like, get off my fucking back. And it's like, it feels worse. It's going to feel better. And then Penelope Cruz, the same thing, where she's like, get away from me.
Can I share why I loved this moment so much?
Yeah.
You were able to see how this woman...
Overfunctioning, too. Edward Norton's a fuser overfunctioner.
You were able to see how Penelope Cruz's character had been giving outside of her limits the entire evening.
Hey, way to be a pro.
Yeah.
Penelope Cruz.
Now, I will say, as a pro, it's tricky because we can't just go into a situation.
It's not tricky because as a pro in real life, honey, you'd never be in that situation in a million fucking years, and neither would I.
No.
So in this movie, it's tricky.
This is what I was going to say before you cut me off, like Edward Norton.
You want some tea?
I get the desire for the days of ignorance, of getting to just go into a space and be messy with everybody else. My clients will say this all the time of, oh, well, this healing shit's kind of a catch-22. And I'll say, tell me more. Because I'm no longer ignorant, and now I know better. And now that comes with a responsibility to act differently, to carry myself differently. I can't lovingly go into a space where I now have the knowledge about how to reduce harm. I can't do that anymore.
Do you know why I had my first panic attacks in my 40s?
Say more.
Because I learned how to default to places other than anger. Anger is such a valuable tool for keeping oneself safe. And then when you're learning to do without it, it can be really, really messy. Anger and deflection. And at least for Rogen's character, it just got stripped away, minute by minute, where people were calling him out on his lies, on his lifestyle, on his coping mechanisms. And it cracked him open. It cracked both of them open. And then he cracked open a piano. Something that he avoided for years and years and years and years.
Yeah. I think movies like this give us glimpses into the pieces of humanity the people are often most afraid to look at. I think we'd so much rather go to a big office hit about The Odyssey, which is coming out at the exact same time. We'd rather go see, a Marvel film. We'd rather go be quote unquote entertained. And the fact that that screenwriting duo, coupled with Olivia Wilde, were able to give us an edge of our seats thriller, a laugh out loud comedy that simply looked at relational dynamics, honestly, was just brilliant and so necessary. This is the type of art, Esther Perel said in the New York Times article, that art can do what so often a therapist cannot. And this is how I feel about my Soho House gatherings and things like that, that there is learning that happens as a collective, that there is learning that happens when we're witnessing another that can't happen in the therapy room, because art is a collective experience that allows us to go, oh, them too? This is why I've been recommending it to everyone, and why you and I were like thrilled to see it on screen. We were like, yes, we've had so many of those conversations, so many of them. And it was cracking us up because early in the film, before it all like started to unravel, there were so many things that Penelope Cruz was saying that have literally come out of my mouth. And Trey would just grab my leg, like, oh my God, like you say these things. And he would say things like Edward Norton. And it is so amazing that we have a film that just looks at human dynamics, that allows us to like just sit inside with them and be like, just like little, little flies on the wall. We get to watch. That's why I love my group things, because somebody will ask a question and I feel the whole room go, no way, them too. I get to sit all day, every day with individuals and partnerships of all different kinds and see the similarities. And I will often ask permission from somebody without any identifying characteristics. May I share this with someone else? This story is going to directly benefit another person. And they'll be like, yeah, sure. Because we all desperately want to feel that we're not alone. And yet culture has made it that we go into our apartments, albeit beautiful ones, and we shut and lock the door, and we don't talk to anyone else about the relational experiences that they are having inside of their homes. And it would save our fucking lives. It is so necessary that we have more people in our lives, that we see the relational struggles of others. It normalizes it. When someone tells us that they're seeing a therapist or seeing a coach, oh my God, we're all like, oh. It's so beautiful. There should be no shame in it. And yet, why is there shame? Because we go into our apartments and we lock the door. And then we try to function out of these old, outdated, antiquated scripts and our own miserableness. And we expect the other person to fill a void in us that's not theirs to fill. This guy Sternberg, while Trey sits there and contemplates, I can see all these thoughts in his head. This guy Sternberg did his research on love stories. And he said that we are mostly narrative creatures. And he researched thousands and thousands of different partnerships and found that it boiled down to 26 different love stories. If you message me, I will send you the worksheet I have on this. And what he found is that we all have different kind of narratives that we've created in our mind, and that when we meet someone, we take them and we plug them into our story about what romance or happily ever after or what relationship is supposed to look like. Boop. So often it's not even about the other person. It's about how they make us feel, the role they play in our lives. We've talked about it several times, that idea that, yeah, Seth's like, you're supposed to want me, or my wife, you're supposed to be attracted to me. When you were acting as Seth, you were like, I want a relief. I want that. I get it. But what we can see there is that she's just a pawn. Like, she is just a character in his story. She's not a living, breathing human being with desires of her own. And I am sorry, but I want people to be fucking other humans. I want the both of them to be engaged in this interaction. I want sweat against sweat and desire and movement towards, but we can't have equal movement towards if it's just a shell.
Is it too late if you're 40 to change?
Hell no. No. It's a great time, actually. You might have a good job. You might have a house over your head. It's a great time to change. It is probably most of my clients are in their 40s. And who are saying, no, it can't be poor me or you're a bad person. It's got to be, what do I do from now on?
Got to be something else other than that.
Got to be.
I have to change.
It's so doable.
Or I have to change how I think about things.
Yes. I don't think, my clients and I talk about the blow up your life button, which could be the consciously uncouple button. It could be anything. A lot of my clients find me after somebody has cheated or they have cheated and they have hit the blow up your life button, which is fine. I often am like, you could work with me first.
Olivia and Seth, by saying yes to this thing that didn't work out, essentially blew up their lives.
Yeah.
And it's probably for the better.
Yeah.
Great.
I love that regardless of outcome, that night changed their lives. They risked the unknown.
Did that night change Cruz and Norton's life?
I don't think so. Maybe
Maybe it was
she'll
like
learn a lesson, which is she should stand more in her knowing.
know better, do better, or something like
Yes,
that.
when a couple is not ready. You know, I was going to say earlier that when you took it off in a different direction, that was beautiful. So I'll come back to this, that, you know, I deeply believe Penelope Cruz's character was giving outside of her limits and capacities the entire night. She had gone against her knowing. She could feel deeply that this couple was not ready for that. She had still gone in. Again, I think it would have been fine to have had a dinner with them, fine to hang out with them and assess truly the state of their relationship with the knowledge that she possesses. I don't think she needs to keep herself from other relationships with other people. But I think if she and Edward Norton's character had gone to dinner, had had a great hangout, had gotten to know them more, and then had just left, I think they would have been able to have a beautiful conversation about the level of ability those two might have to be involved in a sex party. I think they could have addressed the fact that they had seen Seth Rogen's character come to their door. I think they could have said, like, we know we've upset you. We have, you know, some Ring camera footage and we wanted to take accountability. It's a hilarious situation. Is where I can assume it has bothered you in some way, and we would love to take accountability and apologize. We can tell you more if you'd like to know. But I do not think it was appropriate to extend an invitation at all. And if she was doing that to keep Norton happy, well, then also shame on her. Like, she has ethical responsibilities here. I don't think that's okay. I just don't. If she is calling herself what she is, not okay. Maybe if he wanted to go do that again, I think once we know about harm, I don't even think that's ethical. I don't. But then, yeah, she was going along to get along in this situation, and then was allowing arousal to show up. And so then was, leaning into the way in which arousal lowers our inhibitions. Then there were substances involved. Like, there were just so many things for me that I was like, meh, meh, meh. Then she sits down and she starts to, in essence, open a container of a therapy session. And no one had consented to any of this.
It's a lovely, this is a performance versus how reality goes, which is no.
So then she's quote unquote working. Again, she's giving, I believe, outside of the container of a session, outside of her own limits and capacities. She should have gotten to just come and be that night. I'm not saying that there aren't times with our buddies that somebody's like, hey, Lauren, like, what do you think of this? Or that I don't slip into that. We know I do. And I am not saying that people who hold beautiful thoughts on things shouldn't get to just share them. But she starts using therapy skills in that moment, which then brings them into almost a therapeutic container. Had they consented to? I don't know. Then that's when, Hawk shares the story, all this kind of stuff. So then she is frustrated at being, so I loved when she blew up, because I'm like, there it goes. About time, because you've been pushed to the outside of your limits for a long time tonight, haven't you? And that's what happens. Which I love. I love a story where we don't like basically put somebody up on a pedestal. Everybody was just very human.
Everybody was fucked up.
And I liked it. I really liked it. So I need people to understand. It's like, I'm not sitting here upset at the storytelling. I love the storytelling. I love that we got to see imperfect humans, and I love messiness. And I don't think that there's really like a hero or a heroine of the story. I think the story is real and raw and gritty, and that's how it should be. It really is. And I love that it leaves us really with an open end of not knowing what's going to happen next. I love it. Do you have a theory of what's going to happen next?
Yeah, they uncouple.
Because why?
Because I think the flash of relief came over them when they said it out loud. I don't know what's going to happen next, but it's got to be better than this. And they both get to be happier because they were so mean to each other throughout. The only time they were nice is when they weren't asking each other questions, when they were sitting and next to each other and fascinated by when it was revealed that they were having sex parties upstairs. That's why it was so noisy. They were fascinated by it. And then it was like, oh, this is a fun dinner party now.
Yeah.
They were receiving a gift at that point.
To me, first of all, the film made me cry so many times for this reason. I so love the work that I do. So I thought it was interesting when Trey and I went out afterwards to just give our initial thoughts, which, again, I truly think we're going to see it again in the theaters, which we've never done that together. Like, we've never seen a film twice in a theater situation and have had equal desire to want to go back, like, to see what we missed. Trey shared, yeah, I think they're splitting. And I deeply believe that they had a glimpse of, oh, we could tool up. Like, this could be the end, but what if we both did get curious about the role we've been playing inside of this container and got a little curious? Not necessarily okay, we're going to hear what Edward Norton's character said about, we have many relationships and it could either be a new relationship within this container or go have another relationship. Not necessarily this like hopeful, yes, this is the next step, but this idea of we could get curious.
You could be right.
And for my couples who come to me in this state, which I do get some, I absolutely do, I make it very clear that I am not attached to an outcome. And I need them to be as unattached to the outcome as I am. And what I ask us to become attached to is curiosity, is to flourishing of both human beings, is to compassion, is to hearing one another, is to discovering something about the other person that we'd never known before.
So the win is process and just showing up.
Yes. Because I think when we can, at this point, this kind of like make or break point, say, you know what? We're putting the outcome on the back burner. That is not important right now. What's important right now is curiosity. Who am I? Who are you? Can I learn something about you? We use Curious Question Asker game consistently. Can you hear something out of the mouth of your partner that you've never heard before that can blow your mind? That you could go, I never knew that. My goal often in these kind of like crucible, critical mass moments is for my clients to leave a 90-minute session having discovered one thing they'd never known before. That's it. That's it. Because that means we were curious.
When Cruz asks Wilde, like, what first drew you to him? And then she revealed she was on a date and she made the date drop him off so she could go back to the bar because Rogen was there with his band and Rogen was flirting with her all night and she ran 9 or 11 blocks.
Yeah.
And he goes, I never knew that. It was one of the most vulnerable moments for Seth's character where he actually, oh man, fucking heard something. He heard something that was going on in the room.
In my field, that's a win.
That's a win.
I never knew that. It reminds us that how we understand the world is through our own lenses. And that when we can just pause and we can take in somebody else's vantage point, magic happens. Frickin' magic happens. I'll wrap it up, but that was also an Esther Perel inspired moment because she says that most of us are most drawn to our partner when one of three things is present. 1, we're apart from one another. 2, we see them in their element, which is what that was. And then number 3, when they do something to surprise us. Y'all, this is not rocket science. It's studied, it's researched, it's so accessible, and it is my favorite thing on earth to talk about. It's why I left that film going, I am doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, and I want to do it for the rest of my life in some form and capacity, whether that's just as I do it now, larger speaking arenas or books. I must do this work because I deeply believe it's going to heal the world. If you want to know more about this work, go to sexedforyou.com/free consult. I'd love to chat with you about the work that I do. Please remember that this podcast is full of our opinions and our opinions only. You take what you like, leave the rest. You have a right to self-determination and informed decision making. Have a great rest of your day and go watch The Invite. Bye.